Good evening. It is 8 p.m. and this is Daphne Johnson. I am back for another session of Vision Inspired Living Daily Inspirations for Single Mothers. Today is Thursday. I'm excited to be back again with you, and I hope that something today will be an encouragement to you, as it has been my endeavor to offer inspiration and encouragement through these daily devotionals here on Facebook for 30 days as I journey through Vision Inspired Living, Daily Inspirations by Single Mothers, a book that I wrote several years ago, and I had the nudge to just bring it back and share some niblets from the book to hopefully offer some encouragement and inspiration. So if you come in and catch me while I'm already in progress, then I would love it if you would stay on and say hello and maybe share the video as well. And then if you catch me towards the end, I would love it if you would watch the replay and let me know that you've watched as well. And so I'll go ahead and get started. Today is day 21, and today's message is Stir Up Their Gifts. And when I think about this, I am reminded of when my children were young, recognizing that they are, even though they came from the same mother and father, they are two completely different individuals. And one of the things that I found myself doing was making sure they were both involved in activities that they were interested in. And that meant sometimes needing to have one on one side of town and one on the other side of town, and getting some help to make sure they got where they needed to go, to engage them in activities that would be of interest to them, but also that would nurture their growth and help them discover what they were good at and to affirm them in those things that they were interested in. And the same is true with them as they were little, and when we were in church together, they each found their different areas where they enjoyed serving. My daughter loved to dance, and so she was a praise dancer. My son was a junior usher, and so that again meant I had the responsibility as a mother to make sure they were engaged and active, and that also meant committing to whatever that schedule looked like to get them where they needed to be. And I say all this to say that when we recognize as parents, and it's part of our job to discern what our children's interests and giftings are, and then we engage them in activities and ministries that will help to nurture those gifts within them and help them express how they are able to contribute to the kingdom of God. And so today's message, again, is Stir Up Their Gifts. And I'll go ahead and read, and it reads as such. A discerning parent recognizes a child's inclinations at an early age. Encouraging their interests can help to develop their gifts as well. By helping them to understand how they're gifted, children begin to understand at an early age that they too can do something for God. In a culture that seeks fame and fortune, it's important to teach our children to desire to please God with their lives and to fulfill His plan for them. Growing up knowing that they can make a difference for the kingdom empowers them to live in this world, but not of this world, and to let their lights shine in a world full of darkness. And so coming up as children with encouragement to serve and with encouragement to do for others is certainly a wonderful way to help them learn how to let their own lights shine in this world, and let them also know that there are people who have need of others' service. And so one of the other things that I can recall when my children were younger was that, although I don't think we did it often, but there were times when we would have volunteer activities. And so I can remember a particular organization, City on a Hill. We spent, we spent a day serving at City on a Hill. And even though at first there was a little bit of hesitancy, I think at the end of the day, they both felt rewarded by spending time in a space where they got a chance to interact and engage with individuals who were in need and who were seeking the services at that organization. And if I recall correctly, it was a day where they were doing on-site medical care, very brief medical care. and also serving food and giving out food for individuals who needed food. So that was an opportunity to nurture within them a gift of service and a gift of doing unto others. And so it was a way to serve God, serve the kingdom, and serve people, and develop that love for other people. And I think as both of them grew up, one of the things that I can recall, particularly with my daughter, she always had a heart for others and for children and for the underserved. And even as she grew into her profession, she wanted to make sure that her service was to those who were marginalized and who had needs. And so, that rubbed off on her. And I can remember even not too long ago, my son was serving and helping distribute food at a food pantry. And if I recall correctly, that was actually one of his jobs when we did the volunteer service. So it gave him a heart for also making sure that, he did some volunteer work even as an adult. And so I think it's important that we point them towards areas where they're gifted, where they can serve, and where they will have concern about others as well. And more importantly, that we plant those seeds of caring for God's people in their hearts. And so as parents, we stir up their gifts by encouraging and nurturing those things that are within them that they can grow into as they become adults and become useful and beneficial for the kingdom. And so I'll read today's scripture. It's coming from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verses 5 and 6. I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you. And so this is just a passage that's talking about the faith that was inherited through faithful mothers to Timothy, and just being stirred up in his own gift by the faith that he grew up probably seeing and then imitating. And so that tells me that there is an example that's to be set by us as mothers, that our children grow up seeing our faith in action, seeing us serving and utilizing our gifts for the kingdom. And what's funny is, as my children were growing up, and I spent a lot of time really, encouraging them and offering direction, for them. One of the things that I did not focus on was, what I could be doing myself, that was a gift that God could use. I mean, I was serving in church, but there was a special gift that I probably put on the back burner a little bit, and that was my writing. And so I would also say to mothers that even while your focus is on raising your children and making sure they're good and making sure you're pointing them in the right direction, that you also make time to cultivate what's in you as well. And I think it's so important that you not lose track of that, because obviously time is short, but then you also have an opportunity for them to witness more of your faith in action and more of you serving with your gifts as well. So that would be one of my encouragements that I would offer as it relates to parents. And the other thing that I think about is, again, we're an example. And so when they see what we're capable of doing to serve, to exercise our gifts, then it may encourage them as well to perhaps, consider, or that example may plant a seed in them as well. So I always say, not only utilize your gifts, but make sure you're encouraging your children to utilize theirs as well. And it's a benefit for the kingdom. And so I will go ahead and read today's prayer. It is, God, my heart's desire for my children is that they fulfill the divine purpose for which they have been created. I praise you for the gifts that are within them and pray for the ability to encourage their growth. And so when I think about that, again, I talk about how both of my children were literally opposites in terms of, their interests and the things that they were good at and the things that I saw in them as giftings. And so that meant a responsibility for me as a mother, ensuring that I exposed them to a variety of environments that would nurture their growth. And one of the things as a parent, you can see things sometimes that they can't see. And so that means that you have an opportunity even to encourage something that they may not have thought of. And so, I can remember suggesting things to both of my children to offer them opportunities to become engaged in activities. And whether they chose to do so or not was totally up to them. And so I mentioned earlier that my daughter loved to dance. And I can recall when she was probably 5, she wanted to take ballet. So I took her to ballet, a little class in the neighborhood at a community center in the neighborhood. And I thought it was good exposure for her. It was something she wanted to do. And she seemed to have this affinity for movement. And after going a couple times or a few times, I don't remember how many times she went, she decided she didn't like it or she didn't want to keep going. So I didn't force her. And so as parents, I think it's important that, you help them to do things that they would like to do, but you don't necessarily have to make them, And so I let her discontinue doing dance because she didn't really want to do it. And so I wasn't going to make her, force her into it. But she later thought about it and thought she wished she had kept going because she truly did have an interest and a love for dance. And even to this day, she has a love for dance. And so, sometimes you may have to discern, is this kid just faking me out or they don't want to try something new? And I found out after the fact that she didn't have any friends. She hadn't made any friends in dance class. So it wasn't something that, she just didn't feel comfortable yet. And I wish I had picked up on that. But again, you really want to allow them the opportunity to do what they're really, really excited about and interested in. And so, of course, she went on and we later enrolled her in African dance, and she managed to serve for a couple years with Tan Kothi Dance Company. And then she also was a praise dancer, as I mentioned. And then when I think back about my son, he was most interested in basketball. He was interested also in music. And so, we tried a couple of things with him as it related to music and drumming. There was a time I had a drum, I had a keyboard, and what else I have? I had a guitar around here, because he was interested in it, but he didn't necessarily have a strong passion for it. So he did not continue, but we gave him an activity to allow him to learn. He also did some other activities as well that he was good at, but not necessarily was it truly his passion. And so his passion actually was basketball for a majority of years of him growing up as a teenager. And as a result, basketball got him a scholarship to go to college. And he went away to Illinois for school for a couple years. And he didn't decide to continue with it. At some point, he actually fell out of love with basketball. And for anyone who has children who are athletes, you may have experienced this as well. Something's a passion, but then, there comes a point where there's a decision that this really ain't it. I mean, I can recall being there as well as a young lady, that I was into certain things. And then as I got older, I decided this really ain't it. But and at the same time, I also did look for avenues to make sure that he was engaged in other things. So that's the end of today's session. I am so happy that, again, I've had this time to come back and share these messages of hope and inspiration with my daily devotionals live. Jennifer, hi there. Thank you for joining. You're catching the tail end of today's live devotional. I've been doing 30 days of inspiration from my book, Vision Inspired Living, Daily Inspirations for Single Mothers. And it was just an encouragement I got from the Lord to just really continue to share the messages, even though I'm on the other side of the journey as a single parent because my children are grown. But the messages of hope and inspiration are certainly still necessary. I really believe that there are people out there who really want to hear something that will help them in their journey. So thank you so much for joining. And I'm here at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I would love it if you would share the video, and I appreciate you joining in. And again, I am Daphne Johnson here on Facebook Live, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I will see you tomorrow And tomorrow is day 22. So we're actually almost towards the end of the journey. And when I think about that, day 1, I thought, oh, Lord, this is going to be a long time, getting done. And now here it is, day 22. And there's not much time left as it relates to the 30-day journey. But I'm excited about this assignment. And I did commit to finish in 30 days, although I'm not doing 30 days consecutively. But again, one thing that I've learned is that if God tells you to do something, you do it. And obedience is absolutely essential. And I do believe that there will be an occasion where someone will catch one of these devotionals and they will be encouraged at a time that they absolutely need it. So I am very happy to carry out this assignment. So again, day 22, the topic is keep trusting. So I want to encourage you to come back with me tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.